Hi. I address you today in a mood of frustration. In the development of pro-am journalism, we are not as far along as we should be. I'd give us a C-. By pro-am, I mean exactly that. A hybrid form in which pro-journalists and their users work together in the production of high-quality editorial goods. My plan of attack today, first I'm going to explain this miserable grade of C-. Then I will identify the progress we have made, because there's been some, and I'll close with what we need to do to move ahead. It took me a while to understand this myself, but I want to isolate one important fact at the beginning. Professional journalism has been optimized for low participation. Up until a few years ago, the job of the user was simply to receive the news and maybe send a letter to the editor. There was a logic to this. Journalists built their practices on top of a one-way, one-to-many broadcasting system. What we haven't quite appreciated, though, is how the logic of a one-way, one-to-many system sunk very deeply, not only into professional practice, but into professional selves. At the deepest roots of their thinking, journalists had accepted an image of the people out there as connected up to big media, but disconnected or atomized from one another, as well as silent and inert and powerless to make media. Today, of course, all these things have changed. People are connected across to each other as effectively as they are connected up to big media. This I call the great horizontal. Most people in journalism are far enough along in confronting these changes to accept that social media is here to stay, that blogging is a normal and useful activity, that amateurs have a part to play in the news system. But accepting these facts isn't enough to make good on the editorial promise of pro-am. Look at CNN's iReport, 750,000 contributors worldwide. When a tsunami strikes Japan, iReport supplies the footage that professionals cannot. But this is exactly where we were in December 2004 when the Indian Ocean tsunami hit. The early coverage was provided by amateurs with cameras. What we don't have 7 years later is the CNN newsroom working effectively with its network of contributors to accomplish what neither could pull off on its own. That's frustrating. We should, but we don't have worldwide pro-am investigations into, say, human trafficking or climate change. And we haven't built upon the crucial insight that my friend Dan Gilmore had way back in 1999. As one of the first newspaper journalists to combine a beat and a blog, Gilmore realized, as he put it, my readers know more than I do. That was always true. It was true in the 1950s. But when the media system ran one way, in a one-to-many broadcasting pattern, there was nowhere for that knowledge to go. Now there is. And yet 12 years later, we aren't making high-quality editorial goods from the more that readers know. Look, there were enough readers of the financial press who knew from direct experience about the mortgage mess to put that story together a year before the crash of 2008. Real estate agents, home buyers, loan officers, mortgage bloggers, drones on Wall Street, they knew that something was rotten. Collectively, they knew way more than the financial press did. The story wasn't hidden, it was uncollected. That knowledge could have alerted the nation well before the crash of 2008 and billions of dollars spent. It was a pro pro-am moment. But we are nowhere near making it happen, and this is why I come to you, a frustrated man. Still, I have to admit, we have made progress, and here are some of the grades I would give us. Andy Carvin, A+. Witnesses who record in an emergency when journalists are missing or banned from the scene, tremendous courage, A+. We have a pro-am distribution and curation system. It's called social media. That's working pretty well. Give it an A. User-generated content, spot news photography is working pretty well, A-. On-the-scene video, A-. Social media helping the newsroom to locate good sources, pretty common, B+. The journalism of the inbox, which is practiced by people like Andrew Sullivan, Talking Points Memo, where a tremendous amount of information comes in every day and they sift it, B. WikiLeaks partners with powerful newspapers, B. Citizens asking questions of public figures, as with Q&A in Australia, B. Users help sift through documents and find the gems, B-. We have some examples, but not enough. News organizations running local and expert blog networks like The Cron in Houston or Forbes, B-. Community-assisted reporting at hyper-local sites, look at West Seattle blog, B-. Public Insight Network, if you don't know it, online database of citizens who have expertise and are willing to help, C, not used enough. Pro-am accountability and monitoring systems, C. Comment threads to supply knowledge that improves reporting, C. Pro-am election coverage, something I've been involved in myself, C-. My readers know more than I do beat reporting, D. Crowd-funded reporting projects, we have Spot Us, and we also have D. Domain knowledge experts who blog and work together with beat reporters, which could have helped in the mortgage crisis, F. Integrating amateur systems like I Report within professional newsrooms, F. Pro-am editorial agenda setting, F. Pro-am fact-checking network, something Craig Newbark wants to get involved with, he should, F. Pro-am investigative journalism, double F. Globally distributed pro-am reporting on global problems, give it a single F. Even when they're commercially viable, we don't have anything going. Pro-am traffic reports, who couldn't make money off that? Mobile phones, right? F. Pro-am ski conditions, it's perfect. You just text like, what? Yeah, F. Now, what explains these grades of C, D, and F? Why haven't we made more progress? Well, part of the answer involves what is called the 1% rule in online life, which you should all know. And the 1% rule says if you attract 1,000 people to your site, 900 of them are just going to use the product. About 100 will contribute anything at all, even a comment on a blog post. And 10 of those 100 will become regular contributors, people you can count on. But when we design pro-am projects, we often create them for the 1%, and then we're disappointed when not enough people show up. Our expectations haven't caught up to what is known. We aren't being realistic. A second problem involves the give-get argument. What do contributors give? What do they get? We simply don't know enough about what motivates people to get involved in open source projects. Our ideas lack nuance. We haven't tested them enough. A third problem is that we simply haven't made it easy enough for people to join in. The ergonomics of participation are poorly understood. We don't have enough experts. We don't have enough studies. Fourth, there are exceptions like Brian Stelter, but in general, pro-journalists don't have the time, the patience, the understanding of online life, or the motivation to get granular with us on these problems. They prefer the iReport solution, where the amateurs do their thing over here and no one undertakes the hard slog of bringing the pros and the amateurs together. Moving against this pattern, Alan Rusbridger, editor of The Guardian, laid down an important marker when he called for the mutualization of journalism. What he meant is that users have something to contribute that professional journalists cannot, and pro-journalists can do things that the users cannot. That is the founding insight of Pro-Am, but Rusbridger, unfortunately, is an outlier. Okay, I'm coming in for a landing here. Here's some things we need to do. Moving forward. First, remember the 1% rule. We need to figure out tasks for the 10%. And we need to ask, what can the 90% do? We have to somehow get from write us this post to fill out this form, which is more likely to engage the 10%. Then we have to figure out how to structure those forms so they result in high-quality editorial goods. Structured data is a huge part of the future of Pro-Am, but we have hardly begun to experiment with it. Frustrating. To engage people in a Pro-Am project, it's critical that they see and feel the connection between the small piece that you're asking them to contribute and the big story that will result. They have to see it, feel it. We need to engage already organized communities and networks, including activists, in journalistic tasks. It's too hard to create these communities from scratch. Frictionless and fun with ladders of achievement and levels of skill. Pro-Am journalism needs to take a page from game design. And I don't mean, hey, we'll give them some badges. No, that's another F. In situations where the users know more than the journalists, as with my example of the mortgage crisis, journalists need an advanced toolkit for tapping into that knowledge. Sadly, we don't have that. It isn't there. We need more beat reporters and niche bloggers to commit themselves to a networked approach where the model is author or journalist plus hundreds or even thousands who assist in daily production. A simple example would be the transportation reporter who covers the Long Island Railroad or the Washington Metro. Obviously, that beat is best done with hundreds of commuter correspondents with their phones collaborating in real time with a full-time reporter. We have the tools. We need people committed imaginatively to the practice. We need an open source version of the online assignment systems that companies like Demand Media and AOL have been developing for their own purposes, which means right-sizing the work, combining it with brilliantly understandable instructions. Finally, learn from Al Jazeera. Pro-journalism has never been optimized for high participation. But participatory media hasn't been optimized for quality journalism either. That right there is the work we need to do. I've been at this since 1989, 22 years. If it takes another 22, I'll be, 77 when the problem is finally solved. And I'm fine with that as long as my looks hold out. Because I really believe the more people who participate in the press, the stronger the press will be. And I'm not ready to give up on that idea. Are you? Listen, welcome to NYU. We are so glad you're here. You can find my talk at my blog. Thanks.